Welcome back to another Patreon episode. This one is on a movie that everybody very quickly forgot about. This was coming out around the time that the Harry Potter stuff was big, and there was a bunch of watershed movies, Lord of the Rings watershed films as well. This was Eragon. This is very widely what the hell is the word I'm looking for here? Hated film, I guess you could say. Hated by literally everybody. Even the original author, Chris Paolini, I think is his name, even he did not like this film. It's just not good. I think I watched this before we were going to do the episode. I think I got busy, so I'm not on this episode. I think I had to go to work. I got called in for last minute work. This is right in the middle of COVID, so we were still figuring out our audio issue, still figuring out our schedules, and I got called in for work at the very last minute. So I had to dip out. It was Seth and Devin on this one and our guest. This movie is not worth watching at all in any capacity. Jeremy Irons, I think, had a lot of negative things to say about his experience on this film. It reminded him a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons film he was a part of. So, yeah, when you're comparing your later work to one of the worst films ever made, it's a bad sign. It's a bad sign. The pitch is quite fun though. They go really in depth into the book. I mean, I think I have the first book. I think I read it a while ago. It wasn't really for me. I'm not really into the Harry Potter stuff. I like Lord of the Rings, not the books. I've tried reading the books and I just can't quite get through them. They're back there on my shelf somewhere. If somebody gave them to me as a gift, I've never been able to finish them. I think I make it like halfway through Two Towers and I just bail out. Like, I can't do it. It's not my thing. But in terms of this adaptation, they ripped the guts out of the story. They just pulled everything out. It was supposed to start a franchise. It didn't. There's been talk of doing a TV show adaptation a while ago, back in like 2022. It's never materialized. No idea what's going on with it. This is kind of one of those franchise non-starters. I think we coined the term blunderbuster later on in the season. Big, bloated franchise starters that never go anywhere. So this is one of those. It's a blunderbuster. So, here is the extended cut of our film rescue for the film Eragon. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Film Rescue Show. We're lending a helping hand to Hollywood, fixing their flaws and faux pas in their feature films. I've finally nailed that alliteration. I've got it. We're good. Today we are joined by our long-time missing host, Devin.
I know, it's been a minute.
I'm trying to think the last episode that you were on.
I don't even know, man. Like, it's so many things have been going on, and like I've been so freaking busy that even finding time to sit down for one of these would have been almost impossible, much less actually having time to be like coherent. I don't know.
Were you on X-Men Apocalypse with Jack Packard?
Yes, yeah, I was on that one.
That's the last
actually,
one.
I think I was on X-Men Apocalypse, and then also the one with Chippa.
Serenity. That's
I don't know which one. Yeah.
The worst movie of 2019. And we have a guest on with us today. We have Audra Jaycott. That's at Audra Jaycott on Twitter and Instagram. She is a neon artist in Chicago. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Today on the chopping block, we have a long requested put off film. I think at one point Devin was going to do this, and then that didn't happen. And then when Audra messaged us, I sent the list, and this is the one that she pulled. We're talking about Eragon.
Yes.
Directed by Stefan Fangmeyer, who did not go on to direct anything else, so I'm going to be nice to him.
I'm not.
Well, so as I was doing research, it turns out he's a visual effects guy, and you see this happen often. Visual effects people get pulled in to direct things that can't get anyone attached with like a real vision, and then you get
actually
this...
I'm not. Listen, I'm gonna be nice to him. It's whoever freaking did the screenplay for this thing that I'm gonna rip to shreds.
Peter Buckman did the screenplay for this.
Well, Peter, I am sorry for what I'm gonna do today. So,
He also did the screenplay for The Foreigner and Jurassic Park 3.
Oh.
okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about this movie. Audra, what drew you to this one to want to fix it?
Well, back in the day, because I think back then I was playing a lot of World of Warcraft at the time, so I was really into wanting to see dragon movies. I remember seeing Dungeons and Dragons in the theaters and Reign of Fire. And what else? Oh yeah, I think the Discovery Channel had a bunch of like dinosaur and dragon specials that I was just really fascinated by. So I picked up the book. And I read it, and it was like because I'm more of a sci-fi person. That was like one of the first fantasy books like I read. The first one cover to cover. All my friends read Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, so I was just like, oh, this will be my thing. And so I was really hyped when the movie came out, and I was like, Jeremy Irons is going to be there. The girl that played like Jill Valentine from Resident Evil is going to be there. This is going to be a sweet movie. Then I saw it and heartbroken. I was like, why?
Yeah.
There's not going to be a sequel to this. I can like stepping out of the movie theater. I was like, I'm not going to see a sequel to this. So whatever.
Yeah, the cast is kind of great. I mean, you got Rachel Weisz, Jaimon Hansu, John Malkovich, plus all the others you named. Like, whoa.
Garrett Hedlund, the guy from Tron Legacy and Four Brothers. I loved him. I was a teeny bopper girl. Like, I was like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, he was an awesome actor at the time.
Yeah, so I'm unfamiliar with the books. And I'd like to do, I guess, the positives of the film itself first. So I want to avoid the book because I know we're going to get into that real heavy in the second half. So, as I like to do, positives on the first part. Is there anything that you see like really redeeming, I guess, beyond the cast, since we confirm that?
For 2006, like, because I revisited the movie in preparation for this, and I was surprised, like, it was pretty decent special effects. I wasn't, turned away by it, like, compared to stuff like Dungeons and Dragons at the time. So I was like, oh, that's not so bad, but that and the cast, I think, were, like, my main positives, I guess. And like having locations, it wasn't like, the Phantom Menace where it was all green screen. I liked seeing them interact with environments, but I think that's kind of where it ends. the actors and, like special effects for its time. Not so bad.
How about you, Devin? Anything? I know you said you really had a hard time watching it recently. Any positives you were able to pull out?
Man, I mean, I think I do agree. Like, overall, the special effects were definitely well done, and I think the majority of the cast were well cast. Oh man, yeah. I honestly, I think that's about as far as it goes for me on this one. Like, it goes downhill so fast.
Yes,
I'm trying real hard not to say words.
I think for me, a big upside. I'm gonna piggyback off you, Audra. The effects weren't as bad as what I think I remembered them being.
Yeah.
Now, like so when you're doing these like big, especially big CGI characters, eye lines are really important, and I think they like half got the eye lines right in this, and then other times I'm like, hey buddy, what are you looking at? The score, I'm the music guy on the podcast. The score wasn't awful. I know this same guy also scored the Emoji Movie, but he also has scored Harry Potter film. So like I think it's Peter Doyle that scored this. He's kind of the guy that you call when you want like big epic medieval score number 5. Like that's kind of his thing.
Question, by score, that's separate from soundtrack, right?
Yes.
To clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there is a big glaring part of the soundtrack, like at the end of the movie, where I'm like, oh yeah, that song was in this movie.
Are you talking the Gem song or the Avril Lavigne song?
The Avril Lavigne song.
Yeah, that was a thing in the early 2000s. I want to know what studio exec was like, hey, so when you do any movie, if it's PG-13, you have to have like a contemporary rock singer come in and do something. This, like, every Spider-Man, we were just talking about it the other day.
Godzilla.
Godzilla. Yeah, just like all the Transformers movies
Oh,
have to end with a Linkin Park song. It, like, what a time to be alive.
But I felt like this movie, I was hoping it would be more in the like Lord of the Rings kind of realm where, I don't recall any Lord of the Rings soundtrack, just the score.
Right. Yeah, and like I mean, he only did one Harry Potter, let's be fair, but you are correct. It's a little abrupt dropping into an Avril Lavigne song.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time we get there, though, it's kind of what you expect, but
Yeah, you're not wrong.
it's like it just the whole movie just feels like it's going, especially like again, being like a fan of the books. I try real hard when I watch movies that are made from books to give a lot of leeway because I know how impossible a task there is. But this film literally falls in the category of one of two films I do not speak of and I try to forget exist. So thank you for reminding me. But yeah, no, it just like the entire thing felt like a train wreck. I literally had to. There was 20 minutes left. I had to put the thing down, leave for an hour, and then come back and finish it. I never have to do that. It was like I just can't.
That's been, I think, a running theme on the show lately is the one person gets stuck on an episode with a movie that they just can't watch in one sitting.
Yeah.
So we just talked about Doom Annihilation recently. I don't think that episode's out until next week, but I let's get into the negatives, I guess, is my segue here. My bar was kind of, I don't want to say low. So Doom Annihilation's basically like, what if you did an action movie on a Doctor Who set? And they did a lot with the material. Like they really stretched it as far as it would go. This, on the other hand, was kind of like, I was seeing stuff that, Audrey, like you were saying, like they had real locations. Where were like the big sweeping establishing shots to show how beautiful this country was that they were filming in? Where was all that?
I don't know.
This film, okay, not even talking about the connection to the book. The entire thing felt like somebody went, man, I have this amazing idea. It's going to be this big, epic movie. And then they just cut it down to the bare minimum, gave themselves a third of the budget, and forgot how to make a movie.
And they were probably like, keep it at like under like, or keep it at like an hour and a half, because without even reading the book, it looked rushed. Like everything just seemed rushed.
I mean, this has $100 million budget. I mean, that's for 2006, that is, Marvel money. This probably has the most uninspired cinematography I've seen in a long time. Just like, it's very flat. The shots are just like giving you information, but it's not like the framing was like, it's a very plain Jane looking movie.
The shots are very much like most of the film, which is like they're just an information dump, but not a good one.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what the entire thing felt like to me. Was like somebody was like, I need to tell you about the plot of this book, which they didn't do well, but I need to tell you about the plot of this book, and I've got an hour and a half to do it. Forget making a good story. Let me just throw stuff at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and speaking of negatives, how much lore can you dump into 90 minutes?
Well, okay.
More than you need to.
Okay, so if we're gonna talk about the lore, you don't have to have known the book to like get this. Well, first of all, I don't know if you know the history of the book. I think Christopher Paolini was the author. I remember being excited telling my boyfriend at the time about it, and he was just like, no, I'm not into this book because at the time, do you know that the author wrote this book when he was 15 years old? Like,
Yeah, I'd heard that he was like real young when this came out, and it was like, if I recall, like very widely like appreciated and loved.
yeah. So like my boyfriend at the time, like he was just slacking off, and his mom came up to him with the book. She bought the book for him, and she's like, "This guy's doing this at 15. What are you doing?" And so I think that totally just like made him not want anything about dragons or specifically Eragon in general. So I had to see it by myself. And when I was rewatching it this time around, I remembered. I don't know if you heard how the story is basically Star Wars, or like the whole Joseph Campbell like hero. Like you could tell, like, oh, that's Obi-Wan Kenobi right there. That's Han Solo. That's so and so, and it kind of made the movie more kind of funnier to watch on second viewing. I was like,
Sure.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's even Industrial Lights and Magic working on the special effects on this too. So the Star Wars links keep growing. But that you can even say that about Harry Potter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they really pace along with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big part of that too just comes down to the fact that Star Wars is such the quintessential hero's journey
Mm-hmm.
that anything that follows that context in a modern era is going to be referred to it because it is the largest thing that culturally we know that fits into that mold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it also it has as I say to people all the time and I get anger for it, Star Wars has the most generic characters. Like the storytelling itself is as baseline as you can get, which makes it very adaptable in just about anything you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Aside of the fact that they're space wizards,
I think
which is dope.
I think that's something Star Wars does well that Eragon maybe, and again, I don't know the book, but just guessing, a lot of the lore in Eragon has to be told because it's like history, whereas Star Wars is just like, we're just going to show you aliens and white space Nazis and space wizards, and you just get it. Like seeing it makes sense. Whereas with Eragon, there's a lot of, we have to tell you this because it happened before, and we can't just show it to you.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the movie's going to be 5 hours long.
Yeah, like dragon
Kind of.
riders and everything. But the thing is, like, okay, I think the moment in the movie that like just disheartened me was when Saphira, like when she went from like an infant to like a full grown adult dragon. I was like, what happened there? There's like no connection between her and Eragon. Like he doesn't raise her, and like when did she learn to like speak?
Right.
Yeah.
Which, like, as things,
that was good stuff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, as things go, a telepathic link between your, for lack of a better term, boy and his dog is what this relationship kind of is
Mhm.
starting out. Not a bad way to go. The telepathic thing actually kind of worked for me.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, for example, like where the red fern grows, you see him growing up with the dogs and the relationships there, and you've got that
Yeah.
connection and love. Whereas here, she just like flew and then bam, turned into like full grown adult, dragon. I was like, that was kind of weird, even if you hadn't seen or read the book.
Yeah, so is that not what happened in the book, or is there more context for it happening?
No,
Listen, okay, I'm going to answer a lot of questions you're going to have, Seth. Everything is wrong.
Oh.
Literally, everything that happens in this movie is not how it happened in the book.
yeah.
Interesting.
All of it.
Well, he raises her like kind of like in Game of Thrones. She like raises the dragons. They grow up with her and stuff. But here, like,
Interesting.
it just happens. It feels like the course of like 2 or 3 days almost.
Sure.
Yeah, there's definitely like that. That's a general theme too. Is no relationship in the movie is developed at all, whereas in the book, every relationship is given a significant amount of weight and development, so that it has some real emotion behind it when things happen to the characters. But here it was just like, oh yeah, these people know each other. Oh, that person is now dead.
I think what they did was like they really wanted to cut the time so they can have more showings per theater, try to make more money, but it shouldn't have been that trimmed down.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at if you look at the plot on Wikipedia, it is 5 paragraphs. It is not a lot. Which watching the movie, you would think there. I guess this does kind of fall into the camp of there's a lot of movie here. There's not a lot of plot here.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is a shame because, and I say this both as someone who holds these books as one of the prime examples of how to write good fantasy, and as someone who's objectively just looking at the book as if it doesn't exist. There is so much good lore that could easily be translatable to film here.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And they basically were like, nope, everything is just generic magic. Just nothing special, generic magic. We're not even gonna flesh anything out.
Yeah.
And it just makes for a movie that there is no plot. There's nothing happening when there should be so much happening.
What do you guys think of some of the better dragon movies that you've seen?
There's
Good
honestly
question.
it's slim pickings because like I mentioned before, I was back then, early 2000s, I was seeking out dragon movies because even
Sure.
Reign of Fire, I was just I don't know about that movie. Dungeons and Dragons was real disappointment. And at the time, have you guys seen that with Justin Whalen and Marlon Wayans?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I think it may have been requested in the past.
And I think Jeremy Irons was in that movie too, but he was what's funny is he's much better in this movie than he is in Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can't unless you're talking about cartoons, How to Train Your Dragon, I can't think of any live action.
No, I know that's a good one actually. That's a good I think all of those movies kind of work really well. I'm trying to think if I've seen the most recent one. I know I've seen. Are there 4 or 5 of them right now?
I don't know offhand.
There's so many, and they've got a TV show, and then they've got a shorts thing. There's so much of it; it's hard to keep track of.
I know I've seen at least 3 because the third one had the continent-sized dragons that they were trying to take over. There was a evil dragon trainer. I forget. It's a really good movie. I'm not doing it justice explaining it, but I know they do really well.
Do you guys remember? It called Dragonheart? With
with
Sean Connery?
Dennis
Dragonheart
Quaid.
is great.
Yeah, that was a lot. I think I was a kid when I saw that, so I barely remember it. But I remember that being cool looking when I was a kid.
No, I haven't seen them in a long time. I want to say they hold up from what I recall.
Dragonheart's 1 definitely holds up for story, and they actually did a really good job. The special effects, for as aged as they are, still do really well. Dragonheart's 2 is a little bit it's enjoyable, but it definitely falls apart. And then I think they recently remade a Dragonheart's 3, which based on what I saw about it is terrible and probably should not be watched.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of.
When I was skimming on Amazon Prime, looking for dragon movies, I thought I saw Dungeons and Dragons. It said 2017. I was like, they made a remake? What the hell? And I reread it. I was like, oh no, that's Dudes and Dragons. And I was like, that might put that on my list. I'm curious.
That might be a better dragon movie.
Who knows?
I think also for me, a classic is always the Neverending Story, which is arguably a dragon movie. But then recently, the new Peach Dragon was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's I've been
that one's true.
I've been wanting to watch that, but it's heartbreaking to watch Carl Urban as a bad guy. So I've been holding off because of that reason alone.
Oh sure.
No, it was I get it, but it was good, and especially having rewatched the original, which was I don't even know what that was. they did a good job with the new one. The rare time when the remake was better than the original.
Well, I mean, it wasn't going to be hard to top the original. That original movie's like barely a movie.
Yeah.
I know it's beloved, but there's not a lot happening there.
Oh, if you like it, you should never rewatch it as an adult. Just not a good idea.
I tried making my boyfriend watch that movie. I was like, oh, I loved it as a kid. Let's watch it. And then you see that kid come out with overalls and dirt in his face, and I'm like, oh. That was probably like 30 years ago I watched that.
Weirdly, the guy that directed the new Pete's Dragon, he's doing that movie, The Green Knight. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailers for that, but it looks insane.
Oh.
So who knows what kind of a director he's going to turn out to be.
Yeah. Oh man, the other
what about
for Dragon
what about The Hobbit?
Too is
The Hobbit?
Yeah, I mean, The Hobbit. See, I never really think of The Hobbit as a dragon movie because the dragon is such a small part of it.
Mm-hmm. In all honesty,
I mean that's.
I haven't.
What were you saying?
I was gonna say, in all honesty, I haven't really gone through the newer ones just because, as a kid, I loved the cartoon for some reason. And I was just like, I couldn't bring my heart to watch the live action ones.
No,
I don't know. That was
the cartoons are still the better version. I mean, those are going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, I'm curious what the decision was in the new Hobbit movies to like make basically the last chapter an entire movie. Like the last chapters of The Hobbit's the final battle and then going home. And they were like, yeah, we can turn that into a 2.5-hour film.
Probably money.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it needed to be 3 movies.
That's where it kind of breaks for me. Yeah, I guess there isn't really like a godfather of dragon cinema besides I guess How to Train Your Dragon's probably one of the best ones.
There's not, especially not a lot of like dragon focused stuff because like there's a couple of Ghibli films that are heavily featured dragons that are really good. And there's a lot of like Tales. I think it's Tales from Earthsea. Spirited Away has dragons, but it's kind of like more in passing if I remember correctly.
What's the one with the forest princess?
Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, Princess Mononoke. That's got a dragon in it, right?
It's been a long time. I have not read
or no, it's like it's that dragon dog thing.
They have a giant wolf in that one.
Yo, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
So there's a couple there, but there's not a lot that's like focused on dragons.
Yeah. I guess if I had to pick my favorite of the lot, I'd say Reign of Fire, just because that movie's insane.
That one just goes crazy. So,
like, if you pitch that movie now, they accidentally dug up dragons in London, and now we're in a Mad Max wasteland with like army technology and medieval weapons. That's a hard sell. I mean, I think I like it for being bold.
It's bold. It's unique, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Also got Matthew McConaughey in probably one of my favorite roles of his.
Oh, yeah. I don't think has he been that insane?
It's so wild.
Has he like pulled a Nicolas Cage in any other movie, or is that like the only wild?
I guess Wolf of Wall Street was his most recent like, whoa, that's Matthew McConaughey? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think he was like insane in that one like he was in like Reign of Fire.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I've seen him do insane before, but I'm trying to think of other things he's done. I guess the definitive dragon movie has yet to be made. So there you go, Hollywood. Try to nail that one down.
Untapped well. Somebody should jump on that. But make it good, hopefully.
Yeah. I think it's dragons are kind of like zombies and vampires at this point. It's or Bigfoot even. It's really hard to do a definitive version because everyone thinks they know everything about them, and by the time like if you were to do a lore heavy like dragons versus wyverns, or wyverns, however you want to say it, that people would be like, they're all dragons. I don't know what you're talking about, but there's
Yep.
very definitively a difference between the two.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, and then like even under dragons, there's so many subcategories, and you got to decide like which ones you're gonna follow and
Yeah.
how you're gonna even express the rules around them. That's I think one of the hardest parts is you have to talk about the rules around dragons
Right.
in order for dragons to make sense. But the rules of dragons are boring because we've heard them all, and you're just telling us which ones you're picking to use.
Yeah.
I think that's why part of the reason too Eragon disappointed me so much because they have like the best vehicle for making the dragon carry weight,
Mhm.
which is a human who can communicate with them directly.
Oh yeah.
No, instead we just get a slightly sassy. I am dragon, I guess. Not even properly fleshed out.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I love Rachel Weisz, but like, I feel like Saphira didn't really have much of a personality going on, you know? Because I felt like, so in the book, because she was growing up, she almost felt Aragon's age, like she's learning things with him, like almost like he's writing like a teenager, you know? Not like his mom or an adult or his aunt, you know?
Well, yeah, and then in the later books, she gets like the development for her is every bit as extensive as the development for the other characters in the book, which is amazing to have like a creature that gets that.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you,
But
after
yeah.
I was so like kind of like upset with this movie because when this movie came out, I was already like partway into Eldest, the next book, and then after watching this movie, I just dropped the book. I didn't even finish it.
Oh.
Oh
Yeah.
man, Eldest is a little slow, but by the end of Eldest and then the last two books, it gets so much better.
Okay.
Like his rating improves in multitudes with every new book he writes.
Hmm.
So by the time you get to the end, like every character is just like gripping you, and every moment is just so powerful. I went out. I loved the book so much. I read through it, and then when I waited for the third to come out because I was supposed to be the last one, bought the box set, read all of them, found out it was not in fact the end, got rid of my box set, and then waited like the next 2 years to buy the box set for all four. Like, oh man, but yeah, no, I mean, like if you ever get the urge, it's definitely worth picking them up and reading all the way through them.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Just the development is so good. Yeah. No, yeah, the
There was,
movie is.
Yeah, the movie. I haven't even read the book, and I'm feeling let down. There was a book series when I was a kid called The Dragonling. I think that actually might be my definitive dragon series. So, like the short pitch is it's set in a fantasy world where humans are like have propagated the idea that dragons and humans can't coexist. So they've kind of like physically separated themselves. So there's like dragon country and human country, and this kid finds an egg and hatches a dragonling and finds out that they're kind of more like birds, and the dragonling imprints on him and thinks he's the mom. And across the series of books, this dragon and the kid grow up together, and like he's a young kid in the first book. I think he's like 8 or 9 years old, and then by the final book, Dragons and Kings, he's like I think a teenager. Like you were meant to read these books as you grew up with the character.
Mhm.
And the like in one book they get like kidnapped and sold into like slavery together, and then there's another book where they like I think they break out and then rescue their other like go back to rescue their other friends. Like it's a wild series, but it's kind of I think a little headier than what kids would want to understand.
Yeah.
But the whole premise was just it was dragons as you know them, but like in a setting you hadn't seen them in yet, where it's kind of a symbol for like kind of semi-racism or slavery, or maybe an amalgamation of the two. Because by the end, the kid is introduced like dragons into the everyday life of people, where like they can help with people's businesses and their farms, and protecting the kingdom, and like there's a dragon king that rules along with the human king to help everybody out because they find out dragons are intelligent. I don't know, maybe worth reading. I think they're very short books because they're for kids, but I remember them being great.
Yeah, it sounds like it's meant for kids, but it has like a heavy message. Kind of like I was
Yeah.
really shocked. Like, I was on a plane and was really bored going to visit home, and I was like, oh, well, all my friends have been talking about Zootopia, and I watched that. I was like, wow, there's a lot of bigotry in this movie. Like, this is like, it's a great movie, great message and everything. But I'm like, I was shocked that they had those kind of messages in a film that looks like it was made for like little kids.
Sure. Yeah,
Oh.
that was like, I think, way headier than anyone was expecting going into it.
Yeah.
The metaphors kind of break down by the end, but it only if you're like thinking about it on a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other like glaring major issues that you guys can think of with this?
Well, one thing.
I mean, well, go ahead, because I still have a list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, one thing, like, not to knock him, but I feel like there could have been like a better portrayal of Eragon. Somebody with a lot more I don't know, personality. Like, if you can picture somebody like Tom Holland playing Eragon and like being
totally
surprised, full of wonderment, kind of scared, but the actor who played him in here, I was like, when I was younger when I saw it, I was like, oh, he's good looking, but like he was kind of just meh, he didn't have like, I don't know, the
that was kind of a sad running theme though with a lot of the characters in this. It was just like there just wasn't any, and I don't think it was even the actor's fault. Like, I feel like this is one of those scenarios where they just had nothing to work with.
Yeah.
It was like, you do this thing, and then you do this thing, and you do this thing. It's like, where is the motivation for any character in this to do the things they're actually doing?
Yeah.
Like, even like Murtaugh is like the best example of that, because he shows up in the last 20 minutes of the film, says, hey, I'm here to help, and then just helps, and we know there's no good reason for him to be doing that. We don't get anything.
Yeah.
So when he gets imprisoned or breaks out, it's like, okay, he's some dude, he's in prison, cool, I guess. I mean, but that was like one of my biggest complaints is the especially if you're going for a sequel, the characters in this are all so uniquely written, and then everything we got in the movie is just like, it's like, here, generic character that fits this archetype. Generic character, just like across the board. This movie. Well, I was just gonna say, this movie is the prime example of why I think series like this need to start the first book with 2 movies, because everything leading up to them finding the Varden could easily have been one movie that would have been fleshed out, and then from the Varden to the end, there's so much that happens. Do you know the book has freaking dwarves in it, and dwarves never show up in the movie?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what happened there? We were like, yeah, we just gotta ignore that. Ignore the fact that dwarves are vital to the Varden having a place to stay. We're not gonna talk about that. Man.
That, and like, if we're talking about acting, every scene John Malkovich was in, I was all excited because I just recently saw like Being John Malkovich. Then I saw this movie, and I was like, is this a joke? Like, why is he playing it like that? Or was he there for like one day and then he filmed all of his scenes? Like, what happened?
Yeah. I made Devin watch Being John Malkovich 2 years ago, 2018.
Yeah.
That was that's a weird experience, and you're right. Like, you would expect, especially if he's there for a day, just to really ham it up. But I think that might be the key to why this movie just really fell flat. Is, you look at the cinematography, it is bare bones. This kind of same thing with the dialogue, and if your dialogue is bare bones and your cinematography is bare bones, I'm gonna guess that they weren't given a ton of takes or leeway to play around with stuff. Like, there's no ad-libbing here. There's no playfulness with the actors to like find their character within these lines, because like you can hand a great actor a series of like mediocre lines and they can really pour a lot into that if they're given the opportunity. I get the feeling that a lot of this was like, set up the camera, get the lighting up, get the actor in place, have them do the line 2 or 3 times, move on, because we
Yeah.
have $100 million and we need to invest half of it into the effects so that this looks good, which is like, I get it, but at the same time, if you have John Malkovich, let him play around a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, let him go crazy.
That's
let him
frustrating.
Go. But I was really
Like,
surprised about Arya. I was like, oh wow, this at the time I was like, wow, this is like kind of a nobody, but she felt like she was giving it her all, even though
oh yeah,
there wasn't much for her to do, just kind of like lay there. But I was like, she's really trying.
Devin, you said you have a list. Let's
well, okay. So, instead of ranting about the movie, what I want to do is jump off from the movie at points and use those to talk about the things the book did great.
okay.
Because I think, especially for this being like the first book somebody's ever written, Christopher did an amazing job of thinking about how the world works and laying out the rules really well in a way that was exciting. So, first, one of the first things that comes up is Galbatorix should not be in this movie. One of the best things about the books is he's this thing that we talk about for 3 books before we ever have any kind of real interaction with him, which makes him this like terrifying power in the background that you just like you have no idea even how you would begin to defeat him. Like there's no information about, hey, when you get there you're gonna do this and this and this. It's just like, no, he's super powerful. He's had hundreds of years to build power and to train when Eragon hasn't. Like basically it's hopeless. But the way they handle that of just he's just there in the background makes it so much more intriguing because you're not trying to flesh out a character that realistically is just a power hungry madman.
Right.
So about 30% of the information given in the movie did not need to be there. That was all like later story stuff. I don't know why they introduced it now. The one of the things I do really love about the books is they go out of their way to only give you the information that Eragon has, except under very specific circumstances where it's going to inform a scene that happens soon enough that you're back to being on the same level as him pretty quickly. But the opening scene was like, the whole opening setup really, I think, was where you see, I think, a majority of the grievances, because some important things get lost there. One being the Razak and Durza, because Durza was actually fairly accurate as a character, but his role was like grossly misinformed. Because he is like the hand of the king, but he's also kind of his own entity, kind of, working for his own things. He, like, the movie makes him seem like he's scared of the king, but the reality is he kind of works for him because he's just a larger power. And the Razak are not Durza's to command at all. They actually work directly for the king. So they're like 2 separate entities, which doesn't get explained in the book for a long time. Again, they're just hyper powerful beings that want Eragon dead for the entire first film, which I think works, or the entire first book, which I think works better than trying to explain them, because it makes them terrifying. And then as we learn about them, they actually become more terrifying. But it's done in a way that's like, he wrote a lot of his villains like you would rate a horror movie villain, where it's like, okay, we're going to give you a tiny piece of information and then let you be freaked out about that. And then once you're settled into that, then we're going to give you a new piece of information that's going to make you freshly terrified of this thing. Which is really smart, really well done. Again, didn't happen here. They kind of just information dumped everything they were going to tell you about it. Then, man, let me keep moving through the list. Going back to earlier, Saphira, that growing up all at once, I broke my heart, because like the opening with Eragon discovering his connection to her, because they have like a big part of the book is that a dragon and their rider has a very like intimate, close bond, and they kind of like dump that on you, telling you that the dragon will die if the rider does. Which in the book, it actually works both ways. It's rare for a rider to outlive their dragon very long. They kind of go, they don't just die, but they go crazy. That's actually what happens to Galbatorix ultimately. Is his dragon died and he went crazy, and then like constructed his new dragon out of dark magic and a dragon egg. So like it's his whole character is kind of a lesson in the dangers of the dragon rider pairing, which again is well written, and here is just like completely ignored. But yeah, watching them grow up and become close, like practically an entire first book is just like, hey, here's a dragon and their rider, and like their growing relationship as partners.
Yeah, and I think I remember like he would even like hunt or get food for her, like all the like little things that made like, you know, it's kind of like you and your pet, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Feel that
he
connection.
built a nest for her because like a big part. So yeah, and that's so important because when the farm burns down, first of all, the farm is actually completely destroyed by the Razak, and it's done while Eragon is gone. But him raising Saphira kind of comes back, and he kind of what's the word I'm looking for? There's animosity between them. I don't know why I'm blanking on the word I'm looking for. Anyways, there's some animosity between them because he blames himself for bringing her into their lives so that his uncle would be killed. Which is like then ultimately his motivation for a big part of the book to go out and get Galbatorix. It's not like I want to be a hero. It's I want to kill the man who sent something and killed my uncle.
Yeah.
So, again, areas for character growth.
And I think
In that,
I was gonna
go ahead.
They hinted it at the movie, but I remember in the book, didn't he have like some kind of like vision where he can kind of like look through her eyes and almost control her? Because I remember reading it as a kid and I was like, oh, that's just like playing a video game where you can like control, I don't know, like the dragon or whatever.
And that's
writing.
one of the things. That's kind of one of the things I got really wrong in this, I feel like. So there is a line in the books, or a thing that happens where, as a dragon and rider get closer, their consciousnesses can meld. And it starts out with him being able to see through her eyes, not with her eyes, by the way, through her eyes specifically. Like the thing where he's in a dungeon looking out his own eyes and seeing with a dragon's vision is not how it worked in the book. Not like a big deal, but still like definitely a general theme here is a misunderstanding of how these things work. But towards later in the book, they actually reach a point where they're so connected that there's a battle where Eragon is describing it, but the way he describes it is as if he is both himself and Saphira simultaneously. Where like if she like he's describing himself hacking through somebody with a sword and then biting a head off, which is like Saphira biting somebody's head off, and it's a big part of like the Dragon Rider lore is that they become so close they actually become like one, like truly inseparable. And it's kind of describes like the longer a dragon and rider are alive, because theoretically they're immortal. Once you become a dragon rider, humans gain. There's a whole ton of lore behind it, but basically humans gain immortality. It's a massively like lore driven thing later on where you find out all this stuff about it. But yeah, they like really become a single unit, which is again like a dope thing. Like to pull that out of out of the air for a dragon and rider to do. It's very well thought out.
Yeah, I've never seen
And
that before, or read that before.
Yeah, no. I mean, even in like stories where like telepathy is used to communicate with animals, it's still like separate individuals. But this was like, no, they're actually like truly connected. And that's one of the things about the book that's really cool is they drive the idea that a dragon and their rider's relationship is closer than anything that could exist anywhere else. And it's a big part of the story with like Eragon and Eragon and Arya. Arya? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm blanking on that. With like because Arya is 100 years old. Because she's an elf, and Eragon becomes very enamored with her. But again, another thing in the movie that bothered me is like she's very clearly leading him on, whereas in the books it's very very reserved. And later on, she kind of like gives in, but there's always that like this is really not like a good pairing. Like we're not really compatible, so wisdom would dictate we not pursue this.
Right.
She's like a Vulcan.
Basically, any relationship he's ever going to be in is never going to be as close as that, and it's important that they both be on board, which is like wild because it's completely like 100% non-romantic between him and Saphira. Like it never even suggests that, which is like something that a lot of YA-oriented fiction for some reason would like to do. He definitely avoids that entirely. But it's just a really like amazing relationship, and it's really well structured. And here it's like, oh, you can telepathically communicate with a dragon. Cool. Which, man, again, so many things. The telepathy thing is a massive part of the magic in the world, and they kind of just left that out because within the books, if you're gonna fight another magic user, you do not cast a spell until one of you has taken possession of the other's mind. Like you can literally control things with your mind. And a reason for that is if you were to cast a spell, there's really no like just generic counter spells. You have to know exactly what the spellcaster is casting in order to counter it. So if you were to just cast a spell and kill a spellcaster in the seconds before their death, they could basically wipe you out. So it is like the rule of magic dueling that nobody casts until one or the other has taken over the other caster and can control them to prevent them. Which is, again, a massive thing later because he fights Durza in the finale and he mentally attacks him. And Durza is a shade, which basically means he has like thousands of demons living inside of him. So when Eragon pierces his mental barriers, basically all of those demons attack him. And then Eragon also gets this massive cut through his back in fighting Durza, and it leaves him crippled for a good part of the story. But it also like there's this, and this is stuff like you couldn't really do in the film, but in the books there's this amazing moment where when he enters Durza's mind, he sees his entire life and goes from Durza is just a thing to be hated to Durza is a thing to be pitied, which is like a brilliant moment. Obviously can't do all that in the film. It's just way too much to dump. But that mental part is so important throughout the whole thing. Like Murtagh coming to the Varden, normally the Varden would actually require you to let them dig through your mind so they can make sure you have no ill intention towards them, which is smart. Like in a place where people can read minds, that's what you do. And Murtagh refuses to let that happen, and that's why he ends up in prison, as opposed to just somebody looking at him and going, hey, yeah, you're this person's son, despite me having no actual context, and I'm going to throw you in prison, despite the fact that there's massive evidence you're clearly here to help. Another moment that bothered me.
Well, like,
right.
Also them saying he's somebody's son, like, that probably shouldn't have been
and that's with everything. Like, Brahm and Eragon spend a lot of time training magic, and there's very specific rules to it, and then they spend a lot of time, like, sword fighting, which makes Brahm's death ultimately, matter.
Yeah. Devin, you cut off Audra. Audra, what were you saying?
Oh, I think, what was I saying? Oh, them saying Murtaugh's dad too. I don't think they were supposed to say that in the first film, right? Like who his parents were? Because isn't that supposed to be kind of like a reveal later on in the books?
Devin, you still there?
I'm here.
Can you hear Audra?
I cannot.
Oh.
Hmm.
But you can hear me.
You.
That's
Um,
strange.
Audra, in Discord, go down to the user settings.
Mhm.
And then click on voice and video.
Uh-huh.
And then under the automatically determine input sensitivity.
Yes.
Is
bring
that
it higher?
is that actually take it lower down to
Lower.
90 decibels or something like that.
90?
Negative
90.
Yeah.
All right. How about now? Could you guys hear?
I can hear you. Devin, can you hear her?
I cannot still.
Weird.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just refresh.
See
Do you think that
anything
would-
indicating any reason that would be either.
Yeah. That's so weird.
Yeah, because I can hear both of you guys.
Take a note of where this is happening. It's odd that you're hearing me and not her, and you heard her earlier.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Do you guys mind if I reload it?
Oh,
maybe
that's fine.
that'll do something. How about now? Mic check. Could you both hear me?
I can.
I'm still
gonna-
not hearing.
Oh.
Yeah, Devin did not hear that.
Check-
I don't
check.
know, Devin. Add her as a friend, maybe. I don't.
Here,
I don't know if
let's
that
see
makes a
I
difference.
Yeah. Let me see.
I sent you a request. That's strange.
How do I do that? It's been
She sent you a
been minute.
request.
Okay.
I feel weird being the middleman here.
There's that. Okay. Added. You want me? Let me try hanging up and calling back.
Okay.
Maybe it's on my end.
Oh yeah, that was strange. Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Cool.
Yep. I can hear you now.
That's so weird.
Yeah, that is strange.
All right. Well, I took the note of where it happened, so I'll be able to cut it out. No problem. And also, I remember what I had just said. Audra, what were you saying earlier?
Oh, Devin. I was mentioning the fact that they said Murtaugh's who his father was. Like, wasn't that supposed to be like a reveal later on? Did they say that in the first book?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was shocking. That I'm
No.
like, wait.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not revealed till considerably later, and even then, he only reveals it to Eragon first for a long time. Like he reveals it to Eragon before he goes to prison, if I remember correctly, and but then like keeps it hidden from everybody else because he's convinced if the Varden find out that they won't want him.
Yeah, because I remember him having, like, because when I was revisiting the movie, I was just like, when he pulls his shirt up and shows some kind of scar, I was like, wait, that thing was supposed to, like, be across his whole back. I remember it being a little more graphic in the book, not just, like, that tiny little thing.
Yeah, well, like, he literally got it when his father threw a sword at him. And the very sword Eragon is carrying, by the way. Which, like, you know, feeds into stuff, and yeah, it's across his entire back, and it's kind of a thing that him and Eragon bond on a little bit later, which is wild. And then yeah, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Like there's so much. I could literally talk for hours about the things they missed lore wise. I'm trying to keep it condensed to the major things.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of moments like that are just like little details that are really well thought out and come together.
What would you have been, from any of the books, most excited to see translated to film if it had been done correctly?
Honestly, I think I think the two things for me, one is the general intelligence of magical creatures, because it's not just dragons in this world that are at that level. There are also, I'm trying to remember their actual names. There are they're werecats.
yeah.
I don't know why I'm blanking on it. There are werecats who are like hyper intelligent magical creatures in the world. Which brings me back to like there's another line that connects to them, but I think the other thing is just the magic system. Like the way the magic system actually works in this world is wild, and it's so grounded that it gave me as a reader the ability to like actually imagine using it. You know, like most magic is like, oh, you just say these words and things happen. But this world was like, no, there's a very specific process to how magic operates. The book actually gives the perfect opening for it. And then the way I've described it to people in the past is, if you are going to do a thing, it requires the real world amount of strength to do it. So for instance, like if you were to levitate a pebble off of your hand, realistically, to take that pebble with your hand and lift it up, 6 inches to a foot, very little energy. If you carry that pebble out 2 miles and then you try to lift it, well, now to do that physically is going to require exponentially more strength, so it could potentially kill you. The other side of it is like once you initiate a spell, you cannot cut it off. You are tied to that spell until it ends. Which means that if you were to cast like a really big spell, like if Eragon was like, I'm gonna heal Sapphire, I keep saying Sapphire, it's like that's how I read it the entire first time. It's stuck in my head. Thera, and he was not successful, it would have killed him. Or if you try to pick up a pebble from 2 miles away and you can't, you're stuck. You're like literally life force is gonna be drained out of you trying to lift it. Which is important because it's a big reason why you can't bring people back from the dead. It's not just some generic, oh, we don't do that. It's like, no, there's a very specific law in place for magic. So it's a really well thought out system. There's a lot more layers to it. It does, one of the things that bothered me is when they called the ancient language the language of the elves, because it's not. The ancient language is it is literally the true name of things. Which is another really cool element of the magic in this, is they were like, oh, the words you say matter because you're speaking directly into the spirit of the thing you're trying to control.
It's really funny because
also gets. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, all that with magic would lend itself to like video games or card games like really well, if this took off, if Eragon took off.
I mean, properly handled, this title could have been like a cash cow, realistically, because there's so much they could have done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and it's like, I think it's part of the reason I enjoy it so much. Especially like, I love fantasy, but as a storyteller, I hate this thing works just because form of storytelling, which happens in fantasy a lot. Like, and yeah, people are just like, oh, this is the thing that can happen just because. We're not going to discuss it. We're not going to try to explain it. You're just going to have to accept it. It drives me nuts. But here it was like, no, literally everything that happens has a purpose. I mean, it gets in like the true name thing. It comes back later because people have true names. And oh man, there's like a really great thread. So the butcher he's talking to at the start of this movie, Sloane, is part of another storyline they should have brought up. So Roran doesn't leave town because of an army. In the book, there's no army in their city. They're basically like a little hamlet in the middle of nowhere and nobody cares about. He leaves because he's in love with Sloane's daughter, but Sloane is one of the wealthier men in town, being the butcher, and Roran leaves to earn enough money to hopefully earn Sloane's favor so he can marry her, which is super important in the second book, because when Eragon leaves, the Empire attacks their hamlet because of Eragon, and Roran like rises up and basically single-handedly turns the town into like a war machine to fight back just to protect Katrina, the girl he loves. So like there's all these pieces that realistically could have been done in the film, but Sloane is like he's a very selfish, angry man. And there's a point later in the books where Eragon actually has to sit down, accidentally discovers Sloane's true name, and then carries the burden of like passing judgment on him for a lot of crimes that he committed in previous books, because Sloane ends up doing really terrible things. And it's a character moment, because part of what the Dragon Riders did was pass judgment on people. So like there's a lot of lore. There's so much stuff. And here they were like, we're gonna take this tiny little pebble of that and we're just gonna throw it out there. And in the movie they just
killed him in the first like 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, no, like they just didn't follow that storyline at all, which I don't know what they were thinking with that, because if they had made a second movie, the entire second book is about Roran.
Oh.
Half of the second book is about Roran. So,
I remember.
Like, you have nothing. Yeah.
Well, because I remember.
How about you?
Oh, God. Well, I just remember starting the second book, and it was all about Roran, and I was like, I kind of had to remember his role in the first book, which was he was the cousin, and then he left. So I'm like, if they were going to make a sequel, and from what I remember, too, in the book, like, spoiler alert, I remember it being a kind of a cliffhanger, too, after he kills Durza, and I was like super, like, I had to start reading the second book, because it felt like a cliffhanger, and then it was like so many chapters just on Roran, and I was like, what's going on? I want to go back to like Eragon and the Dragons.
The entire second book is a lesson in how to do cliffhangers, because you're literally following both Roran and Eragon, and it's so well done that by the time you switch, you are so ready to switch to the next character every time, but he leaves just enough that partway into the other character, you're like, shoot, I really want to know what's going on now back there. And it just compels you to drive through the book. Because the second book is, like any series like this, is going to have the book that's a slog. Like, it's going to be slow, it's going to be a lot of information, and it's just going to take, like, it's going to be the hardest one to get through. The second book is that book, because he's truly fleshing out the world, but the way he does it just compels you to keep pushing forward to get to that next thing. And you walk out with, like, such a deep, intimate character understanding that it really carries through the rest of the books after that.
Interesting. How about you, Audra? What from the books that you've read would you have wanted to see done correctly on screen? What's the most exciting thing to you?
Well, like, just because I was such a geek about dragons, one, like I said it before, I missed Saphira growing up, and like this is gonna be like a really dumb nitpick thing, but I'm like, I felt like in the movie, I think she had like feathers or something like that. Or was it the opposite? Like, because I remember, she had more like bat wings, right, in the book. And then at one point it was like torn, or like I remember there was like something graphic, and there were like, she got cut on there. But then they didn't show any of that. And Roran, they really shortchanged him, because I'm like, one, he looks just like Eragon. Like, I'm like, man, you couldn't even dye his hair or part his hair differently. Like, every time they were like wrestling and stuff, I'm like, I don't know which is which at times. But yeah, I think mainly just like you said before, the storytelling, I guess the casting is not so bad, but if there was like more direction on that, because I kind of have a list of who I kind of would potentially have cast in certain parts, and I have a really kind of fun game I kind of made up to play around with that. I don't know if that should be accurate.
What's that?
Okay, so
do you want to take a break now? That's totally fine.
No, I don't know. Do you guys think you need a break, or do you want to jump into this silly game?
Let's take a break.
Okay, sounds good.
And then when we come back, we'll do the game and the pitch.
Okay.
So let me plug, or I'll let you plug your stuff as we leave into the break.
Oh, plug my... Okay, I guess my website is audrajcott.com. I do a lot of neon and ceramic artwork, and I have an adult coloring book. I guess you'd have to check it out to see what I mean by that. And my Instagram is at Audra Jacot.
And that's Jacot, Jacot.
Yes.
Just for anyone like me that has a hard time with spelling. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Audra's game, we'll have the pitch, and then maybe we'll do a little Patreon content with our new game that we've been doing.
Ooh.
Devin doesn't even know about this game yet.
Don't. I'm so out of the loop right now.
I know, but it's okay. We will be right back.
I can't believe this fucking movie even existed in the way that it did. Funny story about the Eragon movie. I love those books, and I decided to go see it opening night with my wife. My wife had not yet read these books. In the theater, I'm getting increasingly angry because the only thing that I got right was the names. And as I'm walking out, and Alicia can feel my anger and rage, she's thinking maybe I'm being dramatic, and then she hears everybody else walking out of the theater pissed out of their fucking minds. Then she read the books and realized, oh my god, those are fucking terrible. Welcome to the most depressing episode of Michael's Film Whatever, where because of Nickelodeon, I don't get a real inheritance saga. I guess we'll do shitty adaptations. We'll start with The Golden Compass. Holy fucking shit. If you have now seen the His Dark Materials TV show, and then you go back and watch the Golden Compass, you now fully understand why the Golden Compass is fucking terrible. Half of what is supposed to be talked about is not talked about, and you don't even fully get the grasp of anything going on in this world. And they don't even do a good job of trying to set up the second book. It's fucking terrible, and it makes me want to scream every time I have tried to watch it. I tried to watch it right before the His Dark Materials came out, and I couldn't do it. I could not fucking make it through it because it's that fucking bad. And I haven't read those books yet, but I really want to because I know how good they are. And then after watching His Dark Materials and realizing just how fucking good that is, man, does it make me want to watch it more. Those fucking, watch the TV show, do not watch that movie. Inkheart, what the fuck? Brendan Fraser, I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry. Everything that you went through to begin with after reading all the shit that happened to you makes me even more depressed that you then had to make fucking Inkheart. I couldn't even tell you half the shit that happens in that movie because it's so fucking bad. I mean, it's not the worst movie on this list. Hello, that's why it's not Michael Shea Movie of the Week. You know what Michael Shea Movie of the Week is. If you don't know what Michael Shea Movie of the Week is, then you're fucking dumb. It has some really cool concepts in it. I really like the idea of Inkheart. It just isn't executed right. And that happens a lot in Hollywood, where they see cool things and they write them down and they're like, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And then they don't do them at all in their adaptation. And that fucking sucks. Brendan Fraser tries to carry it, but it doesn't work. Plain simple. Paul Bettany's in it. I love him. Michael Shitty Movie of the Week. It's fucking Eragon. God fucking damn it. This is why you cannot trust Nickelodeon to do anything fucking right. Because Nickelodeon has yet to really make a good adaptation of anything, except for Dora, which is weird that they did a really risky adaptation of Dora the Explorer by making her older and live action, and it actually worked on a lot of levels. Because Eragon is fucking garbage. If anyone with half a brain would have gotten Eragon, which when Eragon came out, I believe the third book was already out, or was about to come out. The dark themes were already in place, and it felt like Nickelodeon did not care that there were other books in this series, so they made one off of a movie that is not even the full story of it. It's bad in every way, shape, and form. Even Jeremy Irons looks like shit in his fucking film. Do not watch Eragon, for the love of God. Hopefully one day someone will make the Inheritance Saga correctly, because my fucking God is this bad. And you know what? Devin's Rescue is probably spot on, because we have ranted together about how fucking bad that movie is and how it pisses me off. And I'm glad I wasn't on there for this one, because I would have just been going off on a tizzy. Fuck you. Fuck you. Just fuck you. Fuck you for making this fucking movie. God fucking damn it.
Let's jump back into the show. We have Devin and Audra on the line. We're talking about, Eragon. I have started drinking, and I think it's game time. You teased the idea of a game in the Twitter DMs, and then you brought it up just before the break. I'm curious to know what this game is.
Okay, so it's a game me and my boyfriend play whenever we watch, well, because we enjoy watching bad movies, especially like
Yep.
when we're drinking and watching it. So we're just like, or even like anything in general, like any kind of properties in general, we're like, okay, who would play who? Like, example, let's use Eragon. Like the main characters, like Eragon, Braum, Arya, Saphira, who would be cast if, let's say, Quentin Tarantino was directing, you know?
Mm.
So, or like, who would be cast if it was like John Carpenter or Michael Bay?
Right. Okay, I follow.
So, let's see. Quentin Tarantino, for example. You know, Samuel L. Jackson probably has to be somewhere in there. He would probably make a pretty
absolutely
badass Braum, Galbatorix.
Yeah. I could definitely see him as Braum. I could definitely see him filling that role for sure.
And Saphira, I don't know, maybe Margot Robbie, or who else are his like regulars?
Uma Thurman doing the voice. She can do a good voiceover.
Yeah, I think maybe like Margot Robbie would probably be a better Arya.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I agree. In his lead, I'm trying to think.
I know, I'm trying to think.
What's the name of that young guy that was in Inglourious Bastards? He's like the main Nazi actor. He played Zemo in Civil War. Do you know who I mean?
I don't know which actor that is offhand.
Let me pull it up here. Captain America: Civil War. His name's on the tip of my tongue.
Daniel Bruhl?
Yep, Bruhl.
Is that who you're talking
Daniel
about?
Bruhl. He's he might be a little too old now. He's in his 40s now. I guess when Eragon came out, he would have been in his 30s.
Oh, he would have been a great young Eragon.
Yeah, the young version of him. I'm trying to think of like
if it was like if it was 90s Tarantino.
Yeah,
it would probably be a different cast, like John Travolta might be Murtaugh or something. I don't know.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. You talk about making me hate a movie. Nothing against John Travolta, just John Travolta in Eragon, I know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what even a Tarantino medieval movie would look like. That's I'm trying like would he do like really dressy sets, or would he try to do things on location? That's my big question.
I don't know. I would want to hope he'd do things on location, but I would not mind the dressy sets.
Yeah, because obviously he'd be going for like, I would assume that like 1970s kind of campy medieval thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I could see him doing something akin to the first Dragonhearts, like aesthetically.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just like.
I didn't bring it up in the first part when we brought up Dragonheart. I don't know if for anybody who hasn't seen it, the plot of that film is Dennis Quaid is buddies with the dragon, and they're hoodwinking towns into paying them for him to slay a dragon. It's like not your average dragon movie. Actually, I may need to rewatch that now that we're talking about it. I may just to see if it holds up.
Like, I think the fact that it doesn't take itself too seriously is part of like what allows it to stay good. Is they're like, yeah, this is kind of a ridiculous spot, but hey, it's fun. Let's just roll with it.
Yeah, I remember watching it as a kid, going like, "Are they the bad guys?" Like they're doing bad.
Great characters.
No, this is a fun game. I like this. Let's I mean, this is basically what we do on the show. Let's do another director. This is fun.
I've got a little like list. The last one is kind of my favorite, but let's go down to David Lynch. I would have to say Kyle MacLachlan. Like, if this was like younger days, maybe. No, I think he wouldn't be young enough to be Eragon, but maybe Kyle MacLachlan could play Braum.
If you're going older, he could definitely do Braum. If you're doing younger, I'm thinking back to Dune. Like,
yeah,
Kyle MacLachlan's not the worst part of that movie. Let's be clear.
And I would love to maybe see like Isabella Rossellini play Saphira.
Ooh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, and then Arya could be Naomi Watts.
Oh yeah, she would be fantastic.
There you go.
Uh,
That's fun. We got we got to go back and find a what was his name? Galbatorix, was that it?
oh yeah,
John
yeah,
Malkovich's character.
yeah. Yeah.
There's got to be somebody in the
for
the
David
big-
Lynch.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know
mean,
he's worked with some real
I'm
characters.
almost thinking of like Dennis Hopper or something crazy like that. Or maybe he would be, like, Durza. I don't know.
I could see either.
Let's see. And I know like the latest Twin Peaks, he's got like a huge cast of like people he knows to play anyone, you know.
But the most
just looking through a list, the Harry Dean Stanton would make a fantastic Durza.
interesting.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the most Lynchian thing you could do though is cast Lynch in this somewhere.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the most Lynch thing you could do is probably like make Brom like a monkey or something. Like, have you guys seen his his Netflix short with that monkey?
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Oh, with the chicken. Oh my god! Like
Yeah.
me and my boyfriend quote that so much. Like that scene where he's just like, you don't know when you like grab her, or you don't know the feeling of your hand surrounded by feathers, grabbing her tender breast or something like that. I was like, what?
What's the line where the monkey calls him an asshole or something? That was the one that made me crack up.
I don't remember that line offhand.
Devin, have you seen this? Do you know what we're talking
I
about?
have not.
Okay.
I didn't
it's
even
on
know
Netflix.
this was a thing.
David-
I apparently
David-
have research for the afternoon.
David Lynch made. I think it's like 15 minutes. It's not long. It's a
Yeah.
short film, and it's like the most Lynchian thing he's ever done. Where like there's a capuchin monkey in it, but it's got like the human lips superimposed on it, doing the voice of this monkey, and it is, and it's wild. It's hilarious. It's weird. It's a trip.
He interrogates it. I think that's in the title, like the interrogation or something. And it's David Lynch himself, I think, like interrogating the monkey.
Yep.
And yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of, and I think the monkey really likes chickens or is chasing chickens or something.
Yeah. We watched Mulholland Drive recently. I have a group of friends that used to, before we got quarantined in Baltimore, used to come over on Sunday nights to watch movies. So we watched Mulholland Drive, and afterwards I subjected everyone to like 20 minutes of David Lynch stuff on YouTube. Specifically, there's like a 3-minute video or a minute and a half video of him directing these kids, I guess for some commercial or something. And the way Lynch directs children is like just so ass backwards, but hilarious to watch. He's like these kids are like 2 and 3 years old. I mean, they can barely speak. And he's going, "You like concerts? Pretend you're at a concert." And it's just like, dude.
Amazing.
What a wild guy.
Yeah.
I like bringing that up to make people run down that YouTube rabbit hole because he is such a character.
Yeah. I was gonna say, have you seen when he accepted a film award, but he couldn't accept it, so he had a Barbie doll accept it for him? Did you see that?
No.
And like it's just
No.
a video pointed of his Barbie doll like laying down, but it was his voice. He's like, "I'm sorry, David Lynch couldn't come to accept the award, so I'm gonna accept it on his behalf." But it was clearly him.
That's wild. I love that. I love that.
He's a
Who else do you have on your list?
I've gotten Tim Burton.
Ooh, Tim Burton's Eragon.
Oh, and I've also gotten. Let's go to
Interesting.
Tim Burton first, because I'm sure Johnny Depp's gonna play a character on there, if not
For
Galbatorix or Durza.
Yeah, honestly, I'd watch his Brom. Johnny
Yeah?
Depp's Brom could be really interesting.
Yeah, maybe Eragon could be like a young. Who knows? Even maybe Orlando Bloom. I know he wasn't in those Tim Burton films, but him and Johnny Depp worked pretty well together.
Yeah.
And not gonna lie, Helen Carter would make a fantastic Angela, even though she got no screen time in this film. Her character in the books is like perfect for that.
Oh,
Interesting.
She's the what's it called? Fortune teller? Is that Angela?
Yeah, but she's like this wild-haired, bizarre character in the books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had the
Like-
werecat too.
Yeah,
Right.
she had the werecat. The werecat was like literally the only reason she even talked to Eragon at all in the first place. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Again, I have too many grievances, but Yeah.
I've also gotten
I'm
oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say after we're done Tim Burton, I've got John Carpenter on my list too. Big
And,
John Carpenter.
Michael Keaton as Galbatorix, I would not be mad at.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
for Burton, that's great.
Oh,
Ah.
he's good. Or even
That's
a young
great.
Winona Ryder, or even not even young Winona, like Winona Ryder in general would probably be a good Arya.
Sure. Or even Saphira.
Yeah.
I'd do either. So John Carpenter,
Mhm.
that's interesting. I don't know if he's ever done anything like this.
Oh, he probably
Um,
would never do anything like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell has to be Brom. That's
oh,
like
yeah.
right.
I was thinking Jamie Lee Curtis would probably be a beautiful Saphira.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Let me think of who's the Kevin, the guy that's in The Thing and
Keith David? Is it Keith
man,
David?
I'm blanking. 1 second here.
Okay.
I will Google it. We were just talking about him the other day. He's like a great character actor. Keith David. There you go.
Oh,
Keith
yeah,
David. Ooh, who could Keith David play? I could see him as Durza, but I could also see him as Galbatorix
Mhm.
as well. Seeing him ham it up as a villain would be great.
Yeah.
This is fun. I like this
yeah.
game.
Well, so the funnest one, it's not necessarily a director, but the type of movie, basically. If it was an Adam Sandler movie, we always thought that that's always our funnest part. I'm like, I would love to see Galbatorix as like David Spade, you know?
Oh yeah. I'm
And-
gonna go get my dragon.
and Adam Sandler would probably make himself Eragon or Brom. No, he'd probably be Brom, and Eragon would probably be something like what's his face, the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah, Andy
Andy
Sandberg.
Sandberg.
Andy Sandberg. There you
Andy
go.
Sandberg. Arya's probably
There
gonna be
you-
like the hottest young actress there is now.
Oh, absolutely. The kid from Twilight. He's buddies with that guy, the werewolf. I haven't done
Taylor Lautner.
There you go.
Yeah.
Taylor Lautner's Eragon. Not terrible.
Yeah. But you could already kind of like see where this movie's going. Like this game that we play, we've done it for because they've redone Batman so many times. I was like, let him do 50 Batmans. Let him give him like a different director for each Batman. And we were playing this game. We're like, okay, Adam Sandler's Batman and Robin. Oh my God, would Robin be David Spade or would he be? Oh no, Robin would be ever changing. So Dick Grayson would be David Spade. Jason Todd would probably be like be like Rob Schneider, and then the third one would probably be like Taylor Lautner or somebody that would actually make like a decent Robin.
Right.
Let's see, who else does he have? And not Galbatorix, Durza would probably be whatever athlete he wants, like Tom Brady or something like that.
Oh. yeah.
He always
Yeah,
has to
that's
have
so
an
on brand
athlete.
for him. I'm in the same boat. I'm like, let every director do a Batman movie, and we can just flood the market so no one can, like, everyone gets what they want. You know what I
and
mean?
I would probably enjoy them all in their own separate ways. Like, oh, he really did that, or oh, I was hoping he would do that, and he did.
Absolutely. The only one that's not allowed to do it is Zack Snyder because he whiffed it already.
yes.
So I think it's pitch time. I'm very interested. I've learned a lot about the book. When who was it that called Eragon the Great Shade Slayer at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what that meant until Devin explained it. So thank you for that. I'm ready to hear a pitch. What is the better version of this movie?
Well, mine is just kind of more like who I would cast and direct it. Like, so let's pretend that money's not an issue. Ideally, I would be curious to see how like Jon Favreau would make this film, because it seems like when he loves something like Star Wars, for example, or even Iron Man, like he seems to put a lot of like love and care and take constructive criticism. So I would love to see his version of it. I would cast. I've said it before. I'm like, it could probably be like an unknown, but somebody who has the same charisma as like Tom Holland or he's the only one I could think of offhand. Tom Holland.
Yeah, no, I'm very on board with the Tom Holland Eragon. That's a great. I think he would especially as he grows, and this is why they cast him as Spider-Man. As he like grows and ages as a person, it's going to come out through the characters that he plays.
Mhm.
And if you're potentially doing the entire series, watching Tom Holland grow through that role would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, go ahead.
I was even going to say, if you were going to do a series of Black Cauldron live action movies, Tom Holland would be a great lead for those too.
Yeah. And like for Brom, I still love Jeremy Irons, but I'm like, we probably should not connect it to this movie at all.
Sure.
So I'm thinking somebody who might be like a good mentor might be like Ewan McGregor. But I also just recently saw Doctor Sleep and Birds of Prey back to back, so that's probably why he's in my head. But,
yeah.
Arya, I don't know. I was trying to like keep thinking young, but I guess like Arya doesn't need to be young. But I do like the girl who played Beverly in It, Sophia Lillis. I thought she might be like, I would like to see her play something kind of different like that.
Oh, interesting. She's in like everything now.
I know. So yeah, I would like her, or even for the younger characters, I'm really open to being like up and coming, people who haven't been in anything big. Durza, it might be too similar, but in my head I was like thinking Tom Hiddleston, but I'm like, he kind of looks like a Loki already.
Yeah. Now, Devin, you were saying Durza's the Shade, right?
Yeah,
or
Shade.
Did I mishear that?
Durza's the Shade.
Does he die in the first book?
He does. You get introduced to him a lot though. One element of Durza that I would have liked to see, because it's pretty prominent in his backstory, is so the shades are always just pale white, because like basically their name describes exactly what they are. They are a shade. Their skin is literally just a facade that houses them. Like when they die, their skin literally like dissolves and demons flood out of them. But his origin is he was a desert dweller. So I definitely would have liked to see an actor of like Middle Eastern descent have played him.
Interesting.
Just for that reason, because like it adds into his backstory, and like even though they don't really discuss it, it's that little piece, that kind of like fills it out.
Who played Jafar in the newest Aladdin remake?
I love that actor.
Marwan Kenzari.
Yeah,
maybe.
Have you guys seen What About Monday? He was great in that movie.
Oh yeah. I totally knew I saw him from somewhere before.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I couldn't remember what happened.
Yeah,
what happened to Monday?
I saw him in What Happened to Monday, and I was like, why does he look so familiar? It bothers me. Then I realized he was Jafar.
Oh, he was also in the Mummy remake.
Oh yeah, I did not see that one.
I know that's on our list to fix. Who are you feeling to voice Zafira?
Just because it's more like a vocal thing. I don't know. I really like Scarlett Johansson's voice since the movie Her.
Yeah.
So she's the
Sure.
first one that came to mind. So yeah, she would be
I could if you're going for like a kind of more British medieval sound, Daisy Ridley, I could totally see her voicing,
Yeah.
especially if you want that like young, evergreen kind of voice.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, I do like the sense of wonderment because, like, seeing her in Star Wars, she's like fascinated with everything and learning new things.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Um, this may be an out there pitch for Galbatorix,
Mm-hmm.
but Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, I don't know if he would do that. I would love to see him as that, but I don't know if he would do
I mean,
that.
this is all hypothetical,
Yeah, of
so
course.
we can. He said yes.
Ooh, yeah, he would be pretty scary and menacing, and not like hammy. Because I felt like John Malkovich was pretty too like. Why would you say it like that?
Yeah.
You're being too
Galbatorix is
sweet.
especially like he's this big, terrifying guy, and like Malkovich can play like evil feeling characters, but he's never
Mhm.
particularly terrifying. It's always just like you're weird enough that I don't know what you're gonna do.
You're weird enough
don't
that
think that's the right vibe.
I won't mess with you if you were to walk down the street.
You might knife
Yeah.
me, or you might make me a balloon animal. I'm not sure. I don't want to find out.
I like to play with risk.
Yeah.
I even had for
Um,
Galbatorix, just out of curiosity, has besides Venom, has Tom Hardy played any other like bad guys?
I want to say yes. I mean, he's definitely the antagonist in a movie where he's also the protagonist in Legend. He's definitely capable. I'll put it that way.
And I thought Murtaugh would just be fun to have like some random person like, because the other night I was just watching The Greatest Showman. I was like, what if Zac Efron was Murtaugh? Like just to appeal to like, the
interesting.
young crowd. And I do think he could act. He's not so bad. It's just he will appeal to like the young girls coming into the movie theater.
Absolutely.
No,
No,
the
I
young
like
girls
that.
and the cougars too, because I noticed
True.
cougars love him.
Yeah. I mean, he's buff and hot. Like I think everybody loves him. So you know.
But I guess my pitch is mainly like try to stick to as much as the book as you can. But I figured like if you have somebody like Jon Favreau behind the helm, he would hopefully do it justice.
Sure. I mean, if he can make cowboys and aliens work, he can make anything.
Yeah. I was surprised by how entertaining that movie was.
I mean, it's silly, but it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So pitch wise, I guess I'm unfamiliar with the book. I guess what are the plot points you'd like to see hit? I guess how would you want to see it kind of lay out? Is it like, because this is a pretty basic like adventure story plot overall.
Yeah. I would probably love to see more of the village and more of his farm, like you said, like the establishing shots, coming in, him finding the egg and keeping it secret, like for more than like a day or two, like, and then him raising, like Saphira hatching and him raising it and growing up with her, like you would see in like say like the red fern grows, or like those movies with like their pets, they form a bond, and then
Right.
eventually they get like that telepathic bond. And I like the idea of her like learning things with him, not like, oh yeah, I am a dragon, I am like 1,000 years old, because I think she said that in the movie, like after she hatched and then flew, she just was just like, oh hey, I've been around for 1,000 years or something. It's like, what
Wait,
Which is also not accurate.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's not true to the book.
No, I mean her egg is like a couple of 100 years old,
Mhm.
but no, she is not like thousands of years old.
No, yeah.
So how do the eggs work then? Are they an egg for like
Okay, so long lore version, dragons are all wild, and through a bond that was sealed with magic, certain dragons become dragon rider dragons. Like they are very specifically there to bond. And actually, only humans and elves can become dragon riders because they were part of that. But certain eggs will be selected and given for that purpose, and then those eggs will not hatch until they meet their proper rider. So theoretically, an egg could last 1,000 years. However, there's also lore that the longer a dragon is in the egg, the more likely it is to awake crazy. So, like, if a dragon wasn't an egg for 1,000 years, it would probably wake up or like birth very mentally unstable. So Saphira was actually in the books at the time she hatches. She was kind of already getting to the point where they were worried about that because she had been in there so long. And it was like, I want to say it was like 100 and something years that she was actually an egg. There is, I think maybe what happened though is there is an idea that dragons have ancestral knowledge, which is not like, it's not specific knowledge, but like, you know, instinctual knowledge kind of that Saphira taps into a lot. Which makes her like considerably wiser. Like she definitely grows a lot faster than Eragon does in that area.
Interesting.
But yeah, I would rather have you know, like, and it doesn't have to be like fleshed out super long, but you know, just see them like form that bond, and then just see her kind of like grow up, not just instantly turn into an adult.
Sure.
Be nice to see like the first third of the movie kind of dedicated to like his home life and raising Saphira and getting to know like the place he grew up and him, and like getting a good sense of like there should be almost a homely feeling and like a hopeful, you know, feeling to that first bit.
Yeah, it's like Lord of the Rings. They don't even cut away from the Shire at all. Like it's up and until they're about to take the ring away, and they only cut to Gandalf at that point. Like it's literally the first 30 minutes. Lord of the Rings is just like, hey, feel good for a minute because we're about to break your heart for the next 9 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And then let's see, him spending like meeting and spending more time with Brahm, because I felt, I don't know, did anyone else think like Brahm's death was silly in the movie? He just kind of
yes,
appeared out of nowhere, like just jumped.
It held no weight at all.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, yeah, there was just like no emotion there. So him like bonding with Brahm or like learning from him, and then because I think he also like just came out of nowhere also when he jumped in front of like the arrow. And I would like, you know, everything from like Eragon's point of view. I don't need to cut to the shade because I feel like it's less scary too, as opposed to like if everything was like if we're following Eragon.
Well, especially because in the books, like Eragon has a series of dreams where he sees Arya and then he sees the shade, so like everything's still filtering through him, and it's all very like in moments.
And that's all you know, you know.
Yeah, and it just builds it a lot better.
Interesting. Okay, so the first third of our movie's real comfy. What do you guys see within the book as like kind of the call to adventure if you're doing the Joseph Campbell thing? What is the thing that really sets it off?
Well, I think when he goes to visit Angela, I think she was a fortune teller, but like realizing he's got kind of a journey to go to, because and that also brings like in the movie I do like how creepy and dark that like setting looked, because it's like, oh, it's not just about like your village and this farm, you know, there can be like a darkness coming like to your life.
Sure.
And then yeah, just fighting the shade and like that's where it gets like fuzzy.
I think the call to adventure is kind of built into what Eragon is. Like, obviously, his uncle dying is the thing that's like, you need to leave because the Razaks show up. His uncle dies. It's like, you have to leave. There's no choice. But the whole big part of the book is that Eragon, by becoming a dragon rider, has destined himself to a life of adventure, and he's kind of a reluctant passenger on that ride. Like, he goes after the Rajak. He doesn't care about Galbatorix. He goes after the Rajak because they killed his uncle. But Sapphire is like always pointing him towards doing the right thing. And it's like a perpetual thing of like, hey, you're a dragon rider. You're supposed to do great things. You really have no choice in the matter. It's going to happen. So it's a big, like, it's kind of like that struggle for acceptance. But I do think I agree about Angela, though, because that's the moment where he goes from like, I'm just like here to, hey, I actually have like a destiny and a purpose, and he starts to accept a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a pretty like weighty scene of like, oh shoot, you're not just a young boy with a dragon. Like, there's a lot going on around you.
And I would also like to see his like relationship with Murtaugh grow too, because I think I know he's going to be a bigger character in like the sequels, and I just remember when I was like
so
younger
much
and
bigger.
reading it, I was like, oh, this is such a cool character. You know, I thought he was kind of like a Han Solo badass kind of character.
Sure.
Not just a guy that saved him, because I think they were just kind of making like jokes like, I owe you one. Now I owe you two. Now I owe you one less. It was like that. That running joke did not really pan out well.
Yeah. Oh man, Murtaugh is like one of. I don't even want to talk about him because it's too many spoilers. But he's one of the most important characters to Eragon throughout the books. And here, yeah, he just like randomly shows up.
Yeah, and they kind of shortchanged him because all he was doing is just like in the cage rattling around, and that's all I remember from him from the movie, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he wasn't there much. Yeah, I mean, like along all these points, I think a big, like really what we should have gotten for the first movie is just like the adventure story leading up to them arriving at the Varden, and then leave that as like the ending, the cliffhanger. Because then you could have fleshed out his home life. You could have fleshed out his time with Braum as they adventure, and he learns magic, and they travel across the land, kind of seeing the devastation that the Empire. Because Eragon really, in the books, he's disconnected from all that because his little place, the spine, they don't talk about the spine a lot in the movie, but it's a series of mountains that basically prevents anybody from coming into their valley. Because like to travel through the spine and survive is a rare skill. The fact that Eragon hunts in the spine is kind of amazing. So when he enters the real world and he starts to see like the devastation that the Empire causes, it's a big part of his character growth. So having that, and then having like once Braum dies, having Murtaugh show up and like getting the bonding with them, you could have all those moments if you just dedicated more time to that first bit.
Yeah, I like that.
And ending with a cliffhanger, because then it would make me excited to like finish the rest of the books. Like I told you, I was just so disheartened that I just like put the book down and never like revisited it. And then it would be great sequel bait too.
Sure. So you said this book had a cliffhanger ending. Is that how you'd want to end the movie as well?
I would not want to make it a Matrix Reloaded. I would want it to be more like Kill Bill Volume 1, if that makes sense. Like,
oh, sure.
Maybe there was
Day one, but there's more.
Yes, because I remember him. I think was his next quest to go like to like an elven village or something. He had a dream. I don't remember.
Yeah. He's so in the books, I talked about like him being possessed by the shade and being cut, and then he has a dream of basically he's being called, like, because he's in a deep haze where like he isn't really connected to the outside world, and he gets another consciousness like cuts through that haze and calls him to go to Elsmira, the Elven Forest, for help, and that's like what sets off his adventure in the second book.
And that would be a great setup for a sequel.
Sure. Yeah. Wild. Planning for sequels in your movies and try to dump it all into one movie. Okay, so I like the structure here. Is there like the final battle stuff? I think is where this movie kind of just really the cracks started to show, in that it's kind of uninspired. Is there another similar battle type that you've seen in other movies that you'd want to like maybe restructure the end around?
Well, I don't know if it was just me, but did this battle feel claustrophobic? It felt like it was just like one area.
Yep.
Like one
Yeah.
bridge.
Well, in the book, it is kind of in one area because they are stuck inside of a mountain. So, but it still was not well done because, like, you don't understand. If you're going to do a battle in a small area like that, you need to understand the lay of the land first. And we have no idea what the lay of the land is.
Yeah.
Which makes it impossible to track what's going on.
Again, establishing shots.
Yeah. Yeah. Proper filmmaking. Yeah. But yeah, because it's actually kind of important because it limits Saphira's ability to fly in the area they're in. Like the way they showed it was like, oh, you have infinite space, but it's actually part of the battle is like, hey, we can fly, but we're in a tight area and there's no getting away. Like we have to engage Urza, and that's the only option.
Yeah, because if you're a giant
locationally
dragon,
was super important.
If you're a giant dragon and it's a small area, that makes you more of a target, than anything.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. Oh, so you'd want like a claustrophobic on purpose final battle then.
Yeah, if you were gonna have this final battle, because like if it was me, I would move that battle into the second movie. But if this was gonna finish it up, definitely deliberately have it claustrophobic and showcase it well, because like basically it is a last stand. It is the Varden's last stand. And utilizing the fact that they're stuck in a tiny space and they have nowhere to go, so it is do or die at this point. If you emphasize that, I think it lends weight to the battle and makes it a lot better. Also, don't make it dark. I think that would be my other thing. Is don't make it super dark, because it doesn't need to be. And it would help a lot too, just because instead of like a lot of black blobs, it'd be like, oh, I actually, we're interacting with stuff.
And,
you
know what's going on.
Seeing the landscape. Yeah,
I like that. So all right,
that.
So Act 1 is our safety net, kicking things off into Act 2. This is where we start to flesh out the world, meet the other characters, characterization, so we care about what happens by the end. I like if you had to break down the first book into 3 acts, what does that look like?
Well, it is like the first book is really an adventure story. So if that last battle, like them arriving at the Varden and the last battle taking place, is about the last quarter of the book. But everything up to that is a series of like basically a small town boy learning about the larger world. So I think if you were to break that down into acts, you're looking at starting out at home, kind of getting a sense of your characters and where they come from, and then part 2 is like discovering the wider world, and then Act 3 is finding a purpose and getting to the first step of that purpose.
Interesting. I like that. Cool. So I mean, I guess overall, the recast and rehelming is going to, I think, really elevate the material to a point where it feels important, and then the pacing it out is going to help us really care about our characters. Now we care if something happens to Saphira because we've seen the dragon kind of grow up in front of us and with us. I like that comparison to where the red fern grows, where it's like, you genuinely care about these animals by the time that they're in danger at the end. I mean, that's a much sadder ending than what we're going to get in Eragon, but
I think I was like 12 when I read those books, and I've like never cried reading a book before, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh yeah. I was angry at my mom. Like she made me read the book, and I remember taking the book back to my mom and being like, why would you do this to me? I hate this. This is the worst.
You made me feel emotions.
I was so betrayed. I was like, you didn't tell me the dogs were going to die at the end. And this is right after she made me watch Old Yeller, which
I was going to say, like,
wow,
that's a duo right there.
Like, I don't know if she was preparing me for our dogs to die someday or what. It's like, our dogs didn't die until I was a teenager and able to deal with it. So I'm like, why are you doing this to me? I'm 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So overall, this is just kind of just a repacing and quality jump more than anything. I mean, like we say all the time, add characterization to your movie, and it's a better movie automatically.
Yeah.
Also, if you're gonna adapt a book, try to adapt the book and not just like a generic idea of what the book is, and that helps a lot too.
Right. Yeah, I bring it up anytime we do one of these like book to movie fixes, that the best way to do these is for the creators to read the book and then start their screenplay based off the things that really stuck with them, and not holding the book in front of them trying to adapt it into a screenplay. Like if you're getting the feelings right, people are going to forgive a lot more because you're hitting the beats and the notes better than if you're just trying to do a one-to-one, this is what this thing in the book would look like on a movie. Like, that never works out well.
Yeah.
Like,
You can't.
Yeah, you look at Peter Jackson, he even said, like, I read the Lord of the Rings books, then I wrote my screenplay based off the things that I remembered. Then I went back to the books to make sure I wasn't misremembering anything, and that's how I built my movies. And that's why, like, they cut a lot from the books that, like, makes sense in book form. Like, the dwarves singing a full song in a book, yeah, you're going to read that because you're getting, like, lore and backstory in song form. But, like, you're not going to interrupt your action movie for a musical number, so yeah, it kind of makes sense to drop that. I get it.
And speaking of which, you probably don't need an Avril Lavigne song at the end of the movie either, because like that just like the movie itself. Like when we rewatched the movie, it was just like, yep, that's the movie. And then when the song came on, I was like, oh yeah, and they even covered that song in Glee too. And then I was just like, explaining to my boyfriend, I was like, keep holding on, like, because he's a dragon rider, It
right
works in two ways, and he was just like shaking his head. He's like, no.
we're doing Twilight tomorrow, and I will say that soundtrack does still slap to this day, but it's like maybe a little more fitting because it's not a medieval.
It doesn't have dragons in it or werecats.
Right.
Well,
like it makes sense. Yeah, but still, it makes sense that
totally different things, though. By the way, a werewolf and a werecat are nothing alike. I need to say that.
What is a werecat then?
Well, a werecat is like specifically born as a cat, and they can transform into a human form. Like even canonically, if you study werecats, like werewolves have always been you're infected and you're human and then you like become it, or it's a genetic thing, but you're always human. Whereas werecats have always been in like this mystery of like they are their own separate race of being, and they can look like a cat or they can look like a human, but they're not human at all.
They still have
they're much more.
They still have the one consciousness, right? They're not like Jekyll and Hyde, or how like werewolves are just like an animal.
No, it's still single. It's still single consciousness. They have the same consciousness in both forms. They're just very cat-like. Like in human form, they have a lot of cat traits. Mm-hmm. In general, they're just very much tied to the animal side of themselves.
Interesting.
And then, of course, in Eragon, they're like also very tied to magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you said it, I was imagining like little cat people, like anthropomorphized standing cats or something.
No, they look like a normal cat, typically a bit larger than a standard house cat, or they look like in human form they typically look like you could think like a gnome or a hobbit. Like they're very small people. And they take different forms. That doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Seth, were you thinking of like the movie Cats, like where they're anthropomorphized?
No, not quite that. I think I was more on the like leaning more towards like Puss in Boots, maybe.
Okay, gotcha. Makes sense.
No, but I mean, you say werecat, and it does invoke maybe a nightmare creature. I don't know, but definitely not the nightmare of cats. Okay, I think it's time for a game.
Okay.
This is So I've been testing the waters on this. It works pretty well. Something that I didn't think about was, so this game requires you to give your birthday. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you can just pick another celebrity and I'll look up their birthday. But it's basically, it's a quick pitch game where, based on a few criteria, I'm going to give you what your movie is, or like who's directing, who's cast in it, what genre it is, and then you quick pitch the plot of the movie.
It's like a little 5-minute elevator pitch.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay.
Exactly. So do you want to give your birthday, or do you want to pick somebody else's birthday?
No, I could give my birthday. Do you need the year too, or just the birthday?
No. Yeah,
Oh.
no, just the birthday.
Okay.
All right. So first, I need the month that you were born in.
Okay, I'm September.
September. All right. Your director is Taika Waititi.
Ooh, I like this already.
All right. Next, I need the date.
It's the 3rd.
The 3rd. Your lead is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wow.
All right. Then, what is your eye color?
Brown.
Your co-star is Sam Rockwell. And for the last criteria, what percent is your phone on right now?
Oh, let me see. 91. Haven't been using it much.
Your genre is drama. So a Taika Waititi drama led by Leo DiCaprio, co-starring Sam Rockwell. Give me an elevator pitch.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean...
You can take a little time to, work on it. You don't have to...
Right now. I'll stop you. Can't think about it at all.
I find this game works best when you just start with your with the first ideas of like, oh, I like this thing this person did and this thing that person did. Then the pitch will slowly reveal itself.
Well, I literally just recently saw Jojo Rabbit, which has Taika Waititi and Sam Rockwell. So I'm like, my brain can't remove myself from that. But I feel like Taika Waititi, like, he can do so many different types of movies. I love his comedies, though. So I'm like, I wonder if we could... Okay, so ideally, I would love something as goofy as What We Do in the Shadows.
Sure.
I don't wonder... Like, I don't know if I've seen Leonardo DiCaprio anything goofy except for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood-ish. Yeah, I would want...
Yeah, he is kind of silly in that.
I mean, I think that's the silliest I've seen him since, I don't know, Growing Pains? Could you think of anything else like goofy-ish?
He was he has definitely comedic scenes in Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He's pretty funny in Catch Me If You Can.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Oh, I forgot he was in Critters 3. I'm looking at his page right now. So instead of a straight drama, what if you did like Taika Waititi's early stuff is kind of like drama comedies, something along that line.
And I think Sam Rockwell would be great in like a dramedy also.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Those two could play like childhood friends. I could definitely see them do that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of something like like if it's I'm gonna be producing this movie, I'll probably be all selfish about it. Like, what if because obviously Taika Waititi can do comic book movies really well. His Thor Ragnarok, like, I don't even care much for like the first 2 Thor movies, and I'm a comic book geek, you know.
Yeah.
But like Thor Ragnarok became like, I'm like, wow, this is better than like almost all the other comic book movies, and it has style. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, what if he took the reins on like something crazy like Suicide Squad or Nightwing or something like that.
Interesting.
Or let's see. But I think the part of the appeal for Thor Ragnarok was that it was in space too. Oh no, okay.
Sure.
Let's just pretend the other comic book movies don't exist. I'm gonna go crazy, and then Taika Waititi. This is his version of Aquaman. Leonardo DiCaprio can be Aquaman.
Okay. Interesting.
Let's let him be weird. Or no, Green
Lantern.
Lantern. No, I want him to be Green Lantern. I feel like if he goes out to space and see,
Making
like,
Taika Waititi go back to Green Lantern almost sounds like punishment.
yeah, Green Lantern, Leonardo DiCaprio could totally be Hal Jordan, and Sam Rockwell could be Sinestro. But like, I like the idea of seeing Leonardo DiCaprio talk to like I think his name was Kilowog, that big old like
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
pink looking guy. Yeah, I don't think I've really seen Leonardo DiCaprio do a lot of like CGI stuff. I want to watch it, see how he plays off of like a green screen and like a really wacky monster.
Interesting.
Really pushes acting
okay.
skills.
So you put Sam Rockwell in a antagonist role.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know. For me, I love him.
Or like
I love him in Moon, but I remember the first time I was introduced to Sam Rockwell was in Charlie's Angels, where I'm like,
oh yeah,
this guy's a jerk. Not only did we
right.
he sleep with her, but he is like the bad guy. Oh, this is like a whole new level of like, horrible.
Yeah. He's got range, that's for sure.
I'm like, he could put the pink paint on and be Sinestro. He could be that wacky.
Oh yeah, for sure. Has he been in anything with Quentin Tarantino? I feel like those two is like a pair I'd love to see.
Not that I recall. I don't think I've seen him in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Seven Psychopaths, because that's a very like Tarantino style movie.
No, I haven't seen that.
They were in a movie together, though.
Oh, wait, Sam Rockwell and Quentin?
Yeah, they were in a movie called Somebody to Love in 1994. Quentin Tarantino plays a bartender, and Sam Rockwell is a Polish guy.
Big roles.
Yes. Oh, okay. Here's the connection. The director of that movie was Alexander Rockwell, and then they went on to do 4 Rooms together, Quentin Tarantino and Alexander.
Oh.
So I guess they're directing buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tarantino, before you retire, get Sam Rockwell. That's something I need to see before I die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, if he does his Star Trek movie and Sam Rockwell was in it, I'm on board.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell. Who do you think he would play? I would almost like to see
Bones.
Bones. Well, I was even thinking of like because I'm a huge TNG fan. I was like, what if he was like Noonien Song or like
Ooh.
a Data prototype or something like that.
Interesting. I could see that. I mean, I love Data as he is, though.
Oh yeah, I loved. Oh, that's why I'm like, he can't be Data. Like,
yeah,
was like,
yeah, exactly.
An older prototype or something, or like I said, like even like Noonien Song, like the guy who created Data.
Okay, yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah, or an ancestor of him or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm on board. Yeah, I like that. That's great.
Because I'm like, that's the only thing. Those Star Trek movies, I get why they don't have any TNG stuff, but I'm like, something little like that might be kind of nice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know I like the TNG movies, but I definitely like the show more.
Oh yeah,
I like them for different reasons, I guess. I'm currently watching my way slowly through Voyager, because that was one that I missed when I was young.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. It's good. It's definitely not like my favorite of the ones that I've watched, but I do like it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I remember. So I used to like be a server, and like a customer, like he and I were like geeking out on Star Trek, and he's like, "Oh no, Voyager really picks up after season 4," and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna go through 4 seasons, 24 episodes each, until it picks up. You know?
Yeah,
so
45-minute episodes too.
So I'm like, I would rather you just give me a list of episodes to watch than being like, oh no, just keep at it and then it'll pick up. I'm like, I don't know.
Man, he's not wrong though, because first 3 seasons were kind of a slog. I'm in 4 right now, so it's good to know I'm about to get into the good stuff, because it is starting to get good.
But are they worth watching to lead up to when it gets good?
Honestly, the only major thing that happens in the first 3 seasons that you would want to know about is so the premise for the show. The first episode starts out. I would say watch the first episode just so you have context.
Mhm.
Basically, the Voyager is sent to stop this, or they have a mole with this group from Mars. I can't remember what they're called. They're basically like the Native Americans of the Star Trek universe. They've got a mole with them, and they're rebelling against the governing system. And so they have this mole. They've enacted this plan to take out this ship. And what happens is they get sucked into this like weird anomaly that takes them to the opposite side of Delta Quadrant, which is like totally unexplored to this by the Federation.
Mhm.
And from there, one of the ships gets destroyed, so they bring all of their like antagonists onto the Voyager, and they make them all crew members of the Voyager so they can find their way home. And so that's the setup. And then what happens from there is there's a character that was a love interest of the basically the Riker spin-off character,
Mhm.
and she betrays the Voyager like 3 or 4 times across the first couple seasons, so she's like a recurring character. I could go back through and pick out the episodes if need be, but like episode 1 and then the episodes with her where she betrays them, those are the ones that's like the only really leading thread of a story. Everything else is kind of ancillary.
Okay, good to know. Because even
Like-
TNG was pretty rough going, but there were some like amazing episodes in the first couple seasons.
Sure. Yeah, that like they meet up with a Q at a certain point, which was a fun episode. Then like they haven't even met up with the Borg yet, and the Borg is like apparently the major villain of the last seasons of Voyager. So I haven't even gotten there. I guess we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Now that I'm home all the time, I have more time to watch it, but I'm also like keeping up with like everything and watching all the movies I need for this show. So
Mhm.
I'm busier than I thought I was going to be.
Have you guys? I don't know if you guys have reread it yet, but have you guys seen the Death Wish remake?
Oh yeah.
Eli Roth. I was like, I
Yeah,
kind of wish there was more Eli Roth in this movie. Like, I would have had a lot more fun if it turned into Hostel, but it did not.
We have an unreleased episode of this show where we tried to fix Death Wish.
Poor Paul.
We just we dumped on Bruce Willis for like 3 weeks in a row.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, rightfully so. Like because of that, or because of like the past couple movies he's made.
Oh yeah, well because we did Glass and Death Wish, and then something else he was in like 3 weeks in a row, and 2 of them didn't even get to get released because the audio was cutting in and out and didn't. This was just before I switched over to like this really nice mic setup that I have.
Mhm.
Actually, I think that was the thing that killed it. It killed my old mixer, and so it was like, well, time for a new mixer, and we'll just not release those Bruce Willis episodes.
Your mixer was like, please stop watching Bruce Willis movies. Please
Yeah,
stop
yep.
talking about that. Well, like he was
Exactly.
Well, so off topic, but like I thought the Hostel movies were cute. I liked what they were for that time, the torture porn stuff. And I was like, ooh, he's gonna be doing Death Wish. That's gonna be so badass. And they're filming it in Chicago, which is where I live right now. And I'm like, ooh,
Ooh.
that's gonna be super fun. I'm gonna see this place, this setting, because they even closed down certain streets to film the movie, but it didn't feel very Chicago when I saw it. And I'm like,
No.
I think there was like one scene where I was like, ooh, that's what Eli Roth is good at. But then that was just like one scene of like a whole movie. And then so it was kind of a bummer.
Oh, yeah, the one where he pumps the oil into the guy's artery or whatever, smashes his head with a car.
yeah. Oh, that guy, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also liked how the original Paul Kersey was he was kind of crazy. He was like almost, what's the word? He was almost like looking for like people to have his vengeance on. Like he was like he was soliciting bad guys basically, just like sitting on the train, with like the gun in
Right.
his lap and like with a newspaper. And I'm like, no, Bruce Willis, this is just a vengeance movie. It wasn't as fun as watching a
You-
crazy guy.
It's funny the Joker didn't get more comparisons to Death Wish, because I saw
Oh
a lot more
yeah.
similarities there than I did to, like, I know King of Comedy came up, but that really was kind of the end of the movie. And
Mhm.
then Taxi Driver, like, I guess I see it, maybe in the performances, but like overall, there's way more Death Wish in the Joker than
Oh,
there is
no.
Taxi Driver.
I didn't even think about that, but now that you mention it, you're right. Oh
I've said it before on the show. Joker's one I'm not really interested in fixing. If a fan wants to come on and fix it, sure, we'll have him on as a guest. But as far as I go, I'm kind of like, I liked the performance. I didn't like the movie, if that makes any sense.
Or if it was its own thing, because like the thing with comic books, like there's a lot of artists and writers that have their own one-off graphic novel. I always figure it's like DC's already kind of like, dug himself into a hole. Might as well just make a bunch of the one-offs, which I think they're going to do now. So I'm like, they should make 10 Joker movies with like different, actors. I would want to see an Adam Sandler Joker movie. That would be great.
Especially if you gave him some Silver Age stuff to work with back when the Joker was like a pranky bank robber. I'd watch that Adam Sandler movie. That sounds like fun.
Who would be the Batman if Adam Sandler was the Joker? Shooter McGavin?
I want to say
maybe?
Kevin James.
Kevin James? Oh, he would probably be a great Batman.
Kevin James Batman just sounds hilarious to me.
Yes, it does.
It's basically Paul Blart in a cowl.
He's got to have like a souped up Segway.
Oh yeah.
It'll be like
the Bat Segway.
I was gonna say like very
the Batway.
Tim Burton Batmobile, like so sleek, but it's still a Segway.
Yeah, exactly. It's got like all the tools in it.
Yeah, got the little tire spikes on the side.
that kind of sounds fun. I'm not gonna lie. Dare I want to have fun in my superhero movies? Well, this was a fun episode. Thank you so much for jumping on. We went places I didn't expect to go on, Eragon.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I had a great time.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, I mean, like I say to all the guests now, open invitation. If you think of another movie or see anything else on the shit list that you want to fix, let us know. We'll totally bring you back on.
Awesome, will do. Thanks again. It was fun hanging out.
For sure. So let me one last time before we close plug your stuff. You can follow Audra at Audra Jacot, that's Jacot, on Instagram for her neon and ceramic art. She's also on Twitter. Thank you again for jumping on the show. What a great time. Also, Devin, good to hear from you for the first time in 10 episodes.
I know, it's been forever.
I guess we'll talk tomorrow when we do Twilight.
Yep. Gonna go
like
down that rabbit hole.
Sounds like a good time, you guys.
I have been systematically tormenting them with the knowledge that they're going to have to do this for over half a year now. So,
honestly, I've been dreading that one more than I was dreading Batman v Superman.
Yeah, well, thankfully, I did not make you watch all of them.
True. Yeah, that would have been. I would have done it. I won't skip any movies for this show, but I unfortunately would have watched them all if you asked me to.
No, I see. I want to be able to like maintain my place in the show, so I gotta, be careful.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna do it for us. If you want to check out what we do at Film Rescue Show and filmrescueshow@gmail.com. Send us your movie pick and your pitch. It can be one sentence or a script. We're open to anything. Any movie you want to come on and do, just let us know. We'll get you on the schedule. We also have a very active Patreon now, thankfully. I find myself with a lot more free time, so I'm able to do the edits that I want. Patreon.com/Montressor Media. For $1, you can get access to our whole growing library of uncut episodes. I'm cutting between 15 and 45 minutes out of each episode now, depending on where we go with everything. So if you want to check those out, those are on our Patreon. We'll also be uploading some clips from our short film that we've been working on as they come out. So that's the place to go for all things Montressor Media. Again, it's just $1 for everything, not $1 per episode, as someone asked me one time. Not $1 per, just $1 for everything. Best dollar you could ever spend. We have a lot of fun drinking and talking about movies on this show. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for listening, and good night.